Have you ever sent a message only to be met with silence? Called someone only to hear the deafening absence of a reply? It cuts deep, doesn't it? That sinking feeling in your chest, the constant replay of what you might have said or done wrong. It's a universal pain, and one that speaks directly to the core of our need for connection and validation. But what if this silence isn't just rejection? What if it's a lesson in disguise? Could it be a powerful signal to refocus your attention inward and reclaim the parts of yourself that you've overlooked? Today, we're peeling back the layers of human psychology to uncover why being ignored feels so personal, what it reveals about others, and most importantly, how you can transform this experience into a tool for growth. Let me ask you, are you ready to stop chasing someone else's attention and start chasing your own greatness? This journey won't be easy. It will require a commitment to Stoicism, to embracing your inner strength, and to letting go of the need for external validation. But I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll not only feel lighter, you'll feel unstoppable. Stay with me until the end, because the most life-changing insight, the key to making decisions from a place of true strength, is waiting for you in the final moments of this journey. Let's begin. 1. What their silence really means. The first lesson in the sting of silence is this: their lack of response says more about them than it does about you. But how often do we forget this? When you're ignored, does your mind spiral into overthinking? Do you find yourself searching for answers in your own behavior, wondering what flaw or misstep might have caused their indifference? It's a natural reaction, but it's also a flawed one. Consider this. Why do we interpret silence as a judgment of our worth? Could it be because we've tethered too much of our self-esteem to the approval of others? It's an age-old struggle, and one that the Stoics like Marcus Aurelius understood well. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Their silence is an outside event. It's an action or inaction that you cannot control. Yet the pain of being ignored tempts you to give it far more power than it deserves. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, why am I letting someone else's behavior dictate my peace? Do they truly hold that much importance in my life? The reality is that silence often speaks to the other person's own limitations. Maybe they're afraid of confrontation. Maybe they're overwhelmed, distracted, or simply indifferent. None of these reasons diminish your value. They simply reveal their inability or unwillingness to meet you where you deserve to be met. But here's the catch. When you internalize their silence, you make it your problem. You turn their inaction into a reflection of your worth. And this is where Stoicism can guide you. Instead of asking, why aren't they responding? Ask yourself, why am I giving this so much power over me? What if their silence is not a judgment but a mirror? A mirror that shows you where you're placing your energy and how much of yourself you're willing to give to someone who isn't reciprocating. This is not about blaming them. It's about observing the dynamic for what it truly is. They're not engaging, not reciprocating, and maybe, just maybe, they're showing you exactly where you shouldn't invest your time. Now think of this silence as a teacher. What is it trying to tell you? Could it be saying, redirect your focus, reclaim your peace, stop seeking validation where it's not being offered? This is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the first step toward understanding that their silence isn't an insult, it's a lesson. As you sit with this realization, you might feel resistance. That's natural. The human mind craves closure and connection. But Stoicism reminds us that closure is not something others give us, it's something we cultivate within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius also said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." So wipe it out. Rewrite the story you've been telling yourself about their silence. Instead of seeing it as a rejection, see it as an opportunity to pause, reflect, and recenter. What could you gain from letting go of the need for their response? What doors might open when you stop knocking on one that's been closed for too long? As we move forward, keep this truth in mind. Their silence is not a definition of your worth. It's a signpost pointing you toward the freedom of self-respect. In the next section, we'll explore how to reclaim the power you've unintentionally handed over to them and why doing so is the ultimate act of self-love. Stay with me. 2. Reclaiming your power. What happens when someone ignores you? It can feel like the ground beneath you shifts, as if their silence somehow pulls the rug out from under your sense of self. You wait, hoping for an acknowledgement that never comes. But pause for a moment. What are you actually waiting for? Their attention? Their validation? Or something deeper, something you think you're lacking? What if the thing you're waiting for isn't something they can give you at all? Let's break this down. Every time you reach out and they don't respond, it feels like you're losing a piece of yourself. But is it truly their silence that's doing the damage, or is it the meaning you're attaching to it? The truth is, when you make someone else's reaction the measure of your worth, you hand over your power. You make them the gatekeeper of your self-esteem. And here's the harsh truth. Some people will take that power without even realizing it, while others might knowingly exploit it. But why do we do this? Why do we give so much of ourselves to people who don't give us the same in return? Is it because we think if we try hard enough, we can earn their attention? Or is it because we've been taught to equate being ignored with being unworthy? Stop for a moment and ask yourself, am I giving away my power to someone who doesn't deserve it? The Stoics would tell you that the power you've handed over doesn't belong to them, it belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." So what are your ambitions in this relationship? Are they to be seen, heard, valued? If so, and those ambitions aren't being met, what does that say about the dynamic? And more importantly, what does it say about where you should focus your energy? Here's a sobering realization. Every unanswered text, every unreturned call, every moment spent waiting for their response, these are not just acts of rejection. They're opportunities for you to reclaim your time, your dignity, and your self-worth. But reclaiming your power isn't easy. It requires you to confront some uncomfortable truths, starting with this. You are not responsible for their lack of response. Let that sink in. You are not responsible for their silence. When someone ignores you, it's natural to spiral into overthinking. You might replay every interaction, searching for something you said or did wrong. You might even convince yourself that if you just try harder, you'll get the response you're looking for. But what if their silence has nothing to do with you? What if it's about their own limitations, their own inability to show up for someone in the way they deserve? And if that's the case, why are you punishing yourself for their shortcomings? Reclaiming your power starts with a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" start asking, "Why am I allowing someone else to dictate how I feel about myself?" This is not about blaming them, it's about taking responsibility for the role you've played in this dynamic. Have you been chasing their validation? Have you been sacrificing your own self-respect in the hope that they'll finally see your worth? If so, it's time to stop. It's time to turn your focus inward. Let's get practical. What does it look like to reclaim your power? For starters, it means setting boundaries. It means deciding I will no longer give my energy to someone who cannot reciprocate. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate them into responding. It's about honoring yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't serve you. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability or inability to acknowledge it. Reclaiming your power also means redirecting your energy. Every moment you spend agonizing over their silence is a moment you could spend building yourself up. What if, instead of waiting for their reply, you use that time to pursue something that excites you? A hobby, a goal, a passion project. What if you poured all the energy you've been giving to them back into yourself? How might your life change? Imagine this, you decide to stop reaching out to them. At first it feels like a loss, like you're giving up. But then something shifts. The time you used to spend checking your phone, wondering if they'd finally respond, is now spent doing something you love. The energy you used to pour into them is now fueling your own growth. Slowly but surely, you begin to feel lighter, freer. You realize that their silence no longer has the power to hurt you, because you've reclaimed that power for yourself. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you focus on your own growth, your own happiness, your own fulfillment, you become magnetic. People are drawn to confidence, to independence, to self-respect. By reclaiming your power, you're not just moving on, you're leveling up. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't need anyone else's validation to feel whole. But don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Decide today that you're done waiting for someone else to see your worth. Decide that from now on, your energy will be spent on things and people that uplift you, not on those who leave you feeling small. This is not an act of bitterness or resentment. It's an act of self-love. It's a declaration that you are worthy of more. Let me ask you, do you feel ready to reclaim your power? Do you feel ready to stop chasing and start building a life that fulfills you? If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. Write down one way you've been giving away your power and one step you'll take to reclaim it. And if you're feeling inspired, show your commitment by liking this video and commenting number 1 below. Let's show each other that we're ready to take back what's ours. If this is speaking to you, don't stop here. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next step in this journey. Together, we're learning to live with the strength and wisdom of Stoicism, transforming pain into power and silence into freedom. In the next part of this journey, we'll dive deeper into how you can shift your focus from them to yourself, and why doing so is the ultimate act of self-respect. Stay with me because the best is yet to come. 3. The wake-up call. Focusing on yourself. There comes a moment in every painful experience when you realize the truth. The pain isn't about them. It's about where you've been placing your focus. When someone ignores you, it's easy to become consumed by thoughts of them. You replay conversations, analyze their behavior, and endlessly wonder what went wrong. But ask yourself, what has all this focus on them done for me? Has it brought me peace? Has it helped me grow? Or has it only deepened the hurt? Here's the reality. Focusing on someone who isn't reciprocating your energy only takes more from you than they ever could. It drains your emotional reserves, clouds your judgment, and distracts you from the one person who truly needs your attention, you. Why is it so hard to shift that focus inward? Part of it is human nature. We're wired for connection, for seeking approval and validation from others. When someone denies us that, it triggers a primal fear of rejection, of being cast out. But here's the thing. You're not a helpless passenger in this experience. You have the power to decide where your focus goes. And when you redirect it toward yourself, something remarkable happens. You begin to heal. This is your wake-up call. Their silence is telling you something, but it's not what you think. It's not saying you're not enough. It's saying, look at where you're pouring your energy. Is this where it belongs? Let's be honest. How much time have you spent thinking about them? Obsessing over their lack of response, trying to decode their actions, wondering if you're the problem. Now, compare that to the time you've spent thinking about yourself, about your own needs, desires, and growth. Where's the imbalance? Shifting your focus inward requires courage. It means stepping away from the endless loop of why questions and instead asking, what can I do for myself right now? It's not about forgetting them, it's about prioritizing you. It's about deciding that your well-being matters more than their approval. The Stoics had a term for this practice, autarkia, or self-sufficiency. It's the idea that true happiness and fulfillment come not from external sources but from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." What would happen if you started thinking differently? If you stopped seeing their silence as a rejection and started seeing it as a redirection? Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. On the contrary, it's about acknowledging them fully. Sit with the discomfort of being ignored. Feel the sting of it. But then, instead of letting it consume you, ask yourself, what is this pain teaching me? What do I need to give myself in this moment? Perhaps it's patience. Perhaps it's forgiveness for them and for yourself. Or perhaps it's the permission to let go of something that isn't serving you. Whatever it is, recognize that the answer lies within you, not in their response. One of the most powerful ways to refocus on yourself is to set new goals, goals that have nothing to do with them. What's something you've always wanted to do but kept putting off? Maybe it's starting a fitness journey, learning a new skill, or reconnecting with old friends. Whatever it is, make it your priority. Not as a distraction, but as a commitment to your own growth. Think about the energy you've been giving to them. Now imagine redirecting that energy into something that lights you up. What could you accomplish? How might your life transform? This isn't just about moving on, it's about moving forward. It's about creating a life that's so full, so vibrant, that their absence no longer feels like a void. And here's the truth. When you focus on yourself, you reclaim your power. You're no longer waiting for someone else to make you feel whole. You're taking responsibility for your own happiness. This doesn't mean you won't still feel the pain of their silence, but it does mean you'll have the tools to rise above it. There's a common misconception that focusing on yourself is selfish. But let me ask you this. What's more selfish, investing in your own well-being or expecting someone else to fill a void they never agreed to fill? The Stoics would argue that self-focus isn't selfish, it's essential. It's the foundation of a virtuous, fulfilling life. So how do you begin this shift? Start small. Each day, do one thing that's just for you. It could be as simple as taking a walk, journaling your thoughts, or reading a book that inspires you. Over time, these small acts of self-care add up. They remind you of your worth and reinforce the idea that you don't need someone else's attention to feel valuable. As you shift your focus inward, you'll notice something interesting. The more you invest in yourself, the less their silence affects you. It's not that the pain disappears, it's that you become stronger. You realize that their absence doesn't diminish you. You're still whole, still worthy, still enough. This is the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. It's an invitation to stop waiting for someone else to give you what you've always had within yourself. It's a reminder that your energy is precious and it deserves to be directed toward things and people that uplift you. Let me leave you with a question. If you stop focusing on them, what might you discover about yourself? What strengths, talents, and passions have been waiting for your attention? Take this as your opportunity to find out. As we move into the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to set the boundaries that protect your newfound focus and peace. Because reclaiming your power isn't just about turning inward, it's also about creating the space you need to thrive. Stay with me. This is just the beginning. 4. The cold reset. Drawing the line. When someone ignores you, it's like being left in the middle of a conversation you never agreed to end. Their silence hangs in the air, unresolved and heavy, leaving you to carry its weight. But what if you didn't have to? What if, instead of standing in their shadow, you could step into your own light? This is where the cold reset comes in, a powerful and deliberate act of reclaiming your peace by creating distance and setting boundaries. The cold reset is not about playing games or seeking revenge. It's about honoring yourself enough to stop giving your energy to someone who hasn't earned it. Let me ask you, how many times have you reached out only to be met with silence? How much of your time, energy, and emotional well-being have you poured into someone who couldn't even bother to reply? Isn't it time to draw the line? Imagine this, you decide to stop chasing. No more texts, no more calls, no more waiting for a response that may never come. At first it feels unnatural, like you're abandoning a part of yourself. But as the days go by, something shifts. You realize that their silence no longer consumes you. The energy you once wasted on them is now yours to keep, and with it comes a newfound clarity. This is the essence of the cold reset. The key to a successful cold reset is intention. This is not about punishing them, it's about protecting yourself. It's about saying, I deserve better than this, and I refuse to settle for less. And here's the truth. When you pull back, it forces them to face the void you've left behind. It makes them see what life is like without your presence. But more importantly, it gives you the space to rediscover your own strength. Why is it so hard to take this step? Why do we cling to the hope that they'll change, that they'll suddenly see our worth and come running back? The answer lies in our fear of rejection. We equate their silence with failure, with the idea that we're not enough. But let me tell you something. Their silence says more about them than it does about you. And your worth is not determined by their ability or inability to see it. The Stoics teach us that our peace is our responsibility. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The cold reset is an act of reclaiming that power. It's a decision to stop letting their indifference dictate your happiness. But how do you actually implement a cold reset? It starts with a clear and unwavering boundary. You make the decision to stop reaching out, to stop seeking their attention. This isn't about ghosting them or cutting them off without explanation. It's about quietly and firmly stepping back, not for their sake, but for yours. During this time, it's important to resist the urge to check up on them. No scrolling through their social media, no asking mutual friends for updates. Why? Because every time you do, you're reopening the wound. You're keeping yourself tethered to their silence instead of moving forward. Let me ask you, what might happen if you gave yourself permission to let go? What could you gain by creating space for yourself? The cold reset isn't just about removing them from your life, it's about making room for your own growth. It's about giving yourself the time and energy to focus on what truly matters. Here's the surprising truth. The cold reset often has a ripple effect. When you stop chasing, it shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, they're the ones left wondering. They start to feel the absence of your presence, the gap you once filled. And while this may tempt you to reach out again, remember this. The cold reset isn't about getting them back. It's about getting yourself back. This is not an easy process. There will be moments when you'll want to break the silence, to send one last message, or make one last call. But before you do, ask yourself, what am I hoping to achieve? Am I seeking closure, or am I still chasing their validation? The Stoics remind us to focus on what is within our control. You cannot control their response, but you can control your decision to protect your peace. Let me tell you a story about Sarah. She was in a situation where she kept reaching out to someone who had stopped responding. Every unanswered text felt like a rejection, a reminder that she wasn't enough. But one day she decided to stop. She deleted their number, blocked their social media, and turned her attention inward. It wasn't easy, but over time she began to feel lighter. The silence that once hurt her became her strength. She realized that by stepping back, she had reclaimed her power. And here's the ironic twist. Months later, that person reached out to her, apologizing for their behavior and asking for another chance. But by then, Sarah had grown so much that she no longer needed their validation. She was thriving on her own. This is the power of the cold reset. It's not about winning them back. It's about winning yourself back. So what about you? Are you ready to take this step? Are you ready to stop chasing and start reclaiming your energy? The cold reset is your opportunity to draw the line, to say enough is enough. It's not a punishment, it's a boundary. And boundaries are an act of self-love. As you reflect on this, take a moment to think about what you're holding on to. Is it serving you, or is it holding you back? And if it's the latter, what's stopping you from letting go? Remember, the cold reset isn't just about removing them from your life. It's about making space for the things that truly matter. If this resonates with you, show your commitment by liking this video and commenting number 1 below. Let's show each other that we're ready to reclaim our peace. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more insights on living with strength and wisdom, inspired by the principles of Stoicism. Together, we're learning to turn silence into power and pain into growth. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll explore how to rediscover your identity and reconnect with the parts of yourself that you may have lost. The best is yet to come. 5. Rediscovering your identity. When someone ignores you, it's not just their silence you're left grappling with. It's the silence within yourself. It's the voice of doubt, insecurity, and self-blame that creeps in, asking questions like, "What's wrong with me? Why wasn't I enough?" But have you ever paused to ask yourself a different question? Who am I beyond this relationship, this person, this situation? Rediscovering your identity is not just a step forward, it's a leap back into the fullness of who you are. Let's face it, when you invest so much in someone who doesn't reciprocate, parts of you begin to fade into the background. Hobbies, passions, even friendships can take a back seat as you focus all your energy on trying to gain their attention. But what happens when that energy isn't returned? You're left feeling depleted, like you've lost pieces of yourself along the way. This is your moment to reclaim those pieces. To look in the mirror and see, not someone waiting for another person to fill the void, but someone who is whole, vibrant, and capable of creating their own fulfillment. This is not about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been. Start by asking yourself, what parts of me have I neglected? Maybe it's a passion you once loved but stopped pursuing. Maybe it's relationships with friends or family that you let drift because you were so focused on this one person. Or maybe it's a dream you put on hold, thinking you'd come back to it someday. Well, today is that day. The journey to rediscovering your identity begins with recognizing what you've been missing. Take a moment to reflect on who you were before this person entered your life. What brought you joy? What made you feel alive? These aren't just nostalgic memories. They're clues to the parts of you that are still there, waiting to be reignited. For some, this might mean picking up a paintbrush again, returning to a favorite book, or rejoining a sport you once loved. For others, it might mean reconnecting with people who truly see and value you. The Stoics believe that our identity is shaped by our actions, not the opinions of others. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." What would you be if this silence didn't hold you back? What kind of person do you want to grow into, regardless of their response? These are the questions that will guide you back to yourself. But rediscovering your identity isn't just about looking backward, it's also about looking forward. What kind of life do you want to create from this moment on? What values, goals, and relationships truly matter to you? When you stop waiting for someone else to define your worth, you give yourself the freedom to define it for yourself. Let me share an example. Imagine someone who spent years bending over backward to please a partner who never fully appreciated them. They put aside their own needs, dreams, and interests, all in the hope of being enough. But when the relationship ended, they were forced to confront the emptiness they'd been left with. At first, it felt overwhelming, like they didn't know who they were without that person. But over time, they began to rebuild. They started painting again, reached out to old friends, and even enrolled in a course they'd always been interested in. Slowly but surely, they rediscovered their sense of self, not the person they were in the relationship, but the person they were meant to be all along. Now think about your own life. What have you put on hold? What parts of yourself have you been waiting to rediscover? This isn't just about finding distractions, it's about reconnecting with the essence of who you are. The hobbies and interests you once loved, the dreams you once had, they're all threads of your identity, waiting to be woven back together. It's important to remember that rediscovering your identity is not a one-time event, it's a process. Some days you'll feel energized and inspired, ready to dive back into the things you love. Other days, the weight of their silence might still linger. That's okay. Healing isn't linear, and neither is self-discovery. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself day by day, piece by piece. As you embark on this journey, be patient with yourself. It's easy to feel frustrated, to wish you could snap your fingers and instantly feel whole again. But the truth is, rediscovering your identity takes time. It's a gradual unfolding, like the petals of a flower. And just like a flower, it needs care and attention to bloom. One of the most powerful tools in this process is reflection. Take time each day to journal, meditate, or simply sit with your thoughts. Ask yourself questions like, what makes me feel alive? What do I value most in life? Who do I want to become? The more you explore these questions, the clearer your path will become. You might also find it helpful to surround yourself with people who truly see and appreciate you. These are the friends and loved ones who remind you of your worth, who lift you up when you feel down. Let them be your mirrors, reflecting back the parts of yourself you may have forgotten. The Stoics believe that our identity is not fixed. It's something we create through our choices and actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What thoughts are you feeding your soul? Are they rooted in self-doubt and insecurity, or in self-love and resilience? Every choice you make, every action you take, is a brushstroke on the canvas of who you are. As you reconnect with your identity, you'll begin to notice a shift. The things that once felt so heavy, their silence, their indifference, will start to lose their hold on you. You'll realize that your worth was never tied to their attention. It was always within you, waiting to be rediscovered. This is your moment to take back what's yours, to reclaim the parts of yourself that you've neglected, and to step into the fullness of who you are. You are not defined by their silence. You are defined by the choices you make and the person you become. This is the beginning of a beautiful journey, one that leads not to someone else's approval, but to your own. As we move into the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to embrace your independence and find joy in standing strong on your own. Because rediscovering your identity is just the first step. Now it's time to build a life that celebrates the unique and extraordinary person you are. Stay with me. The best is still ahead. 6. Loving your independence. Independence. It's a word that carries so much weight, yet often feels elusive when you've spent so much time chasing after someone else's attention. But independence is more than being alone. It's about standing strong, whole, and unshaken by the actions or inactions of others. It's about knowing deep down that you are enough just as you are. When someone ignores you, it can feel like they've stolen something from you. Your confidence, your sense of value, your peace of mind. But here's the truth. They can't take anything from you that you don't allow. Independence is about reclaiming what's always been yours. It's about loving the freedom that comes with not needing anyone else to define your worth. Let's start with a question. What does independence mean to you? For some, it's the ability to make decisions without seeking validation. For others, it's the confidence to walk away from situations that don't serve them. And for many, it's the freedom to create a life that feels fulfilling, regardless of who's in it or who isn't. Independence doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you build walls or refuse to let anyone in. It means you choose where to place your energy. It means you prioritize your peace over someone else's indifference. Ask yourself, how much of my happiness depends on others? And how can I start building that happiness from within? The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from within. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." When you embrace your independence, you stop letting someone else's behavior control your emotions. You reclaim your power and redirect it toward things that uplift you. But let's be honest, loving your independence isn't always easy. It requires letting go of the comfort of external validation. It requires sitting with the discomfort of being ignored and choosing to focus on yourself anyway. This is where many people struggle. The need for connection, for acknowledgement, is deeply ingrained in us. But what if the connection you're seeking isn't with someone else? What if it's with yourself? Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling at peace, not because someone texted you back, but because you built a life that feels complete without them. Imagine spending your days doing things that bring you joy, surrounding yourself with people who value you, and pursuing goals that matter to you. This is what independence looks like. It's not about being alone, it's about being whole. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly free? Free from worry about what someone else thinks, free from the need for their attention. If it's been a while, it's time to make a change. Independence isn't something you wait for, it's something you cultivate. Start by taking small steps toward independence. Each day, do one thing that's just for you. Maybe it's spending time on a hobby you love, setting a boundary in a relationship, or simply taking a moment to reflect on your own needs. These small acts of self-care add up, building a foundation of confidence and resilience. Think about the energy you've been giving to the person who's ignoring you. Now imagine redirecting that energy toward yourself. What could you accomplish? How might your life change? Independence is about recognizing that your energy is precious, and it deserves to be spent on things and people that make you feel alive. The beauty of independence is that it's magnetic. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. People are drawn to those who are confident, self-sufficient, and unapologetically themselves. But here's the irony. When you embrace your independence, you stop caring about who's drawn to you. You're too busy building a life that fulfills you. Loving your independence doesn't mean you won't still feel the pain of being ignored. It doesn't mean you won't have moments of doubt or longing. But it does mean that you'll have the tools to rise above it. Independence is not about being unbothered, it's about being unshaken. Let me share a story. There was a woman named Mia who spent months trying to win back the attention of someone who had stopped responding to her. She sent texts, made calls, even tried to bump into them in person. But no matter what she did, their silence remained. One day, Mia decided she'd had enough. She stopped reaching out, deleted their number, and focused on herself. At first, it was hard. She felt the pull to check her phone, to wonder if they'd noticed her absence. But over time, something shifted. Mia started investing in herself, joining a fitness class, reconnecting with old friends, and pursuing a career goal she'd been putting off. Slowly but surely, she fell in love with her independence. And when that person finally did reach out months later, Mia realized she didn't even want their attention anymore. She was too busy thriving on her own. What about you? What might your life look like if you loved your independence as much as Mia did? What dreams have you put on hold while waiting for someone else's acknowledgement? Now is the time to pursue them. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but to prove to yourself that you are capable, worthy, and complete. The Stoics teach us that we don't need external things to feel whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Loving your independence is about changing the way you think about yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions. It's about building a life that feels fulfilling from the inside out. So how do you start loving your independence? Begin by celebrating your own victories, no matter how small. Did you resist the urge to reach out to someone who's been ignoring you? Celebrate that. Did you take a step toward a personal goal? Celebrate that too. Every time you choose yourself, you're reinforcing your independence. Another key to loving your independence is gratitude. Take a moment each day to reflect on what you're grateful for. This could be something as simple as a good cup of coffee, or as profound as a supportive friend. Gratitude shifts your focus away from what's missing and toward what's present. It reminds you that your life is already full of things worth celebrating. Loving your independence is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when it feels easier and days when it feels harder. But with each step, you'll grow stronger, more confident, and more at peace. And one day you'll look back and realize that the person who once ignored you no longer has any power over you. Their silence didn't break you, it built you. If this resonates with you, show your commitment by liking this video and commenting #1 below. Let's inspire each other to embrace our independence and live unapologetically. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for more insights on living with strength, resilience, and the wisdom of Stoicism. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to make decisions from a place of strength and confidence, ensuring that every choice you make aligns with the incredible person you're becoming. Stay with me, there's so much more to discover. 7. Deciding from a place of strength. You've reached a pivotal moment. Through the silence, the pain, and the self-doubt, you've grown. You've reclaimed your power, rediscovered your identity, and embraced your independence. Now comes the final, most transformative step, making decisions not from a place of weakness or fear, but from a place of strength. What does it mean to decide from a place of strength? It means you no longer let the whims of others dictate your path. It means you choose actions that align with your values, your goals, and the person you're becoming. It means saying, "I will no longer settle for less than I deserve." But how do you reach this point? And once you're there, how do you ensure your decisions reflect your newfound clarity and confidence? The first step is understanding what brought you here. When someone ignores you, it's natural to feel powerless. You find yourself reacting to their behavior, desperately trying to make sense of it or change it. But strength is not found in reaction, it's found in intention. Ask yourself, am I making decisions based on what I need, or based on what I fear losing? Fear-based decisions often lead to compromise, compromising your time, your values, even your self-respect. For example, you might reach out one more time, thinking maybe this time they'll respond. Or you might agree to something you're uncomfortable with, hoping it will win their approval. But these choices only reinforce the dynamic you're trying to escape. They keep you tethered to someone who has already shown you where they stand. Now consider what it feels like to act from strength. When you decide from a place of strength, your actions reflect your self-worth. You no longer seek validation from others because you've learned to give it to yourself. You no longer chase after those who ignore you because you've realized your energy is better spent elsewhere. Strength-based decisions are rooted in self-respect, not desperation. But deciding from strength requires clarity. To make strong decisions, you must first know what you stand for. What are your non-negotiables in relationships and life? What values guide your actions? When you're clear on these, decision-making becomes less about others and more about staying true to yourself. Take a moment to reflect on your values. Do you value honesty, respect, mutual effort? If so, does this person's behavior align with those values? If the answer is no, why would you continue to invest your time and energy in them? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This simple principle can serve as a guide when you're faced with difficult decisions. If their actions don't feel right, don't accept them. Strength also means setting boundaries, firm, compassionate boundaries that protect your peace. Boundaries aren't about punishing others, they're about honoring yourself. When you say, "I will no longer accept being treated this way," you're not being unkind, you're being brave. You're standing up for the life you deserve. But setting boundaries is only part of the equation. Once they're in place, you must enforce them. This can be challenging, especially if the person you're dealing with tries to test those boundaries. But remember, every time you uphold a boundary, you reinforce your strength. You show yourself and others that you mean what you say. Strength also means letting go. Sometimes, deciding from a place of strength requires you to walk away. This is not an act of weakness, it's an act of courage. Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care, it means you care enough about yourself to choose peace over chaos. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to? And is it helping me or hurting me? Letting go can be painful, but it's also liberating. When you release someone who doesn't value you, you make room for people who do. You open the door to relationships that are built on mutual respect, effort, and care. And most importantly, you send a powerful message to yourself: I am worthy of more. But letting go doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a series of small, deliberate choices that lead you closer to freedom. Each time you choose to prioritize your needs, to enforce a boundary, or to walk away from something that doesn't serve you, you're letting go. And with each step, you're building the life you deserve. The Stoics understood the importance of perspective in decision-making. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you decide from a place of strength, you're no longer reacting to others, you're acting for yourself. You're choosing to live in alignment with your values and priorities, regardless of what others do or say. Let me share an example. Imagine someone who spent years trying to fix a one-sided relationship. They made excuses for the other person's behavior, ignored red flags, and sacrificed their own needs in the hope of being enough. But one day they decided to stop. They set a boundary, walked away, and focused on their own growth. At first it felt like a loss, but over time they realized it was a gain of self-respect, freedom, and clarity. They started making decisions that reflected their worth, and in doing so they built a life that no longer depended on anyone else's approval. This is the power of deciding from a place of strength. It's not about winning or losing, it's about choosing what aligns with your highest self. It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your own life, regardless of how others treat you. As you reflect on your own journey, ask yourself, what would it look like to make decisions from a place of strength? What would it feel like to choose yourself unapologetically? These questions can guide you as you move forward, helping you stay aligned with the person you're becoming. Strength-based decisions aren't always easy, but they're always worth it. They require courage, clarity, and commitment to your own well-being. But the reward is a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and true to who you are. This is your moment to step fully into your strength, to make choices that honor your growth, your values, and your worth, to create a life that reflects the incredible person you've always been. The silence that once hurt you is now your power, your fuel, your foundation. And from this place of strength, there's nothing you can't achieve. Stay true to yourself, stay strong, and remember, every decision you make is a step toward the life you deserve. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one that's written by you, for you, and with you at the center. You've walked a long path, one filled with questions, doubts, and emotional challenges. But through it all, you've uncovered something profound. Being ignored isn't a judgment of your worth. It's a call to reclaim your power, rediscover your identity, and embrace your independence. Every silence you faced was an opportunity in disguise. It was a signal to stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for strength. You've learned to set boundaries, let go of what doesn't serve you, and make decisions from a place of clarity and confidence. And now you stand at the threshold of a new chapter, one where you're no longer defined by others, but by your own actions, choices, and self-respect. The Stoics taught us that our lives are shaped not by what happens to us, but by how we respond. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." As you move forward, let your thoughts be guided by self-love, resilience, and an unwavering belief in your worth. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to build from here? What kind of relationships will I welcome into this next phase? Let these questions be your compass as you continue to grow. Remember, this journey isn't about forgetting the person who ignored you. It's about honoring the lessons their silence taught you. It's about using those lessons to build a life that feels true to who you are. As you reflect on this experience, take pride in the strength you've cultivated. The silence that once weighed you down has become the foundation of your transformation. The pain that once felt unbearable has shaped you into someone who is wiser, stronger, and more self-aware. You are no longer waiting for someone else to see your worth, you see it for yourself. This is your moment. The next steps are yours to take, and the life you create will reflect the incredible person you've become. Remember, every decision you make, every boundary you set, and every choice to prioritize yourself is a declaration of your worth. Thank you for taking this journey with me. If this has resonated with you, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences, your insights, and your growth can inspire others who may be on the same path. If you found value in this, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living with strength, wisdom, and resilience. Above all, know this: you are enough. You've always been enough. And now you have the strength to live like it. Here's to the next chapter of your life, a chapter filled with peace, purpose, and the unwavering knowledge that you are worthy of everything good the world has to offer. Go forward with strength and confidence. You've got this.